will well and that I will
well
and faithfully discharge the duties
and faithfully discharge the duties
upon which I am about to enter.
on which I'm about to enter.
Great.
Consider yourself sworn in.
Thank you. What I'll do is I'll sign this and scan it and send it to you.
That's fine.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for giving me a copy of it. That helps.
Sure.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, approve the agenda for today. Can I have a motion to approve it?
I move to approve the agenda of the May 11th, 2020 meeting.
Okay. Any second, since Pat is not here? How does that work?
You can second
You
it.
can second it, Diane.
Okay, I second it. Is there any discussion?
I don't have any speakers.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Section C, information and discussion. Number 1, HUSD response to COVID-19. Fernando?
Yes, thank you. So I just want to share some slides that we've shared at with our communities and with the Board of Education. Christy, are you going to put those up, and then I can go through and kind of talk through them. As you know, COVID-19 has had a lot of implications for the district, from operations, you know, from every aspect that you can imagine. So I just kind of want to go through a few things. If you can scroll down, Christy. So just a quick update. Just some of our major updates. We have commenced our distance learning component. We're going to talk about like our graduation, the technology pieces that we've had to implement and put in place to support distance learning. Also our safety considerations as we think about kind of next, you know, our employees, our students, and how do we keep operations going, our social emotional support that we're working on offering, and then our next steps. Next. So just to let you know, initially when we first closed, there wasn't any notion of what we were going to be doing. I really want to give a lot of credit to educational services, teachers who have really taken on with the distance learning plan. So that was launched. These are teacher created lessons, activities, there's communication. So there's really office hours for students to check in. And then we've also been working on having family resources available and support for distance learning. And I'm not sure if the other slides go into this, but we've distributed thousands of Chromebooks with the assistance of AOD, our TSS, our tech staff. So it's really great, but this is what we've worked out for our weekly lesson times. 3 to 4 hours per class of class per day, per week. So we have about 5 hours per week, and then you notice that we've broken it down at the bottom. So our PK, TK, and kindergarten students, 10 hours a week for our 1st through 3rd, and 13 hours a week for our 4th through 6th. Right now, our students are obviously on the path to graduating. We have gone through surveying our seniors for their input, really trying to work in alignment with the governor's reopening plan, as large gatherings have created this impossibility to do a traditional graduation. And we're looking to creatively celebrate graduates via online experience with continued input from students. So this is something, you know, even at the last board meeting we were talking about, but we're really trying to determine how we can best celebrate our students reaching this major milestone. Technology, as I said, 7,000 Chromebooks were distributed to students. So this was a really all hands on deck tasks. We had to clean them, get them distributed out. We qualified and were granted a $100,000 grant from the Stutsky Foundation for hotspots, because we found that a lot of our students didn't have adequate internet access to be able to engage in the distance learning outcomes and activities. So we have hotspots. And then we've purchased 400 hotspots, and distribution has begun for those. We're also partnering with the city of Hayward and AT&T for wireless access, and we're utilizing Google Classroom and Zoom as well for our processes. Just kind of some of our safety considerations. We're continue to need to develop protocols for meeting any social distancing requirements, especially when we resume back to school and those things, and not just for school itself for students, but even for work environments. Also, how do we the use of face coverings and gloves in our schools and also in our offices, district offices. Ensuring that our facilities are sanitized. So really looking at what are the precautions, and then what is the ongoing pieces that go along with that. And then also to how we continue to support healthy habits, for example, hand washing, ensuring that custodians are keeping all of our bathrooms with all the needed supplies and the such. And then also too, as we go through COVID-19, this is really unprecedented for anyone. Really taking into consideration the social emotional support. You know, people in their isolation tends to do kind of interesting things to the human psyche. So really looking at models around trauma-informed care. How can we support that? How are we supporting our families who oftentimes, you know, for many of our students, school was the safe zone. It was the 6 hours out of the day where they got, you know, a couple of hot meals. And so how are we supporting our families? How are we supporting our staff? Because our staff is also impacted through this process. And again, looking at how do we continue to expand the mental health supports that are needed, that we're engaging in when we look at the whole child and also our staff. Just the next steps, we are going to be looking for community engagement. There's going to be a town hall meeting May 18th, 4:30 to 6. So we just had one a few weeks ago in partnership with the city. This is going to be focused on school reopening. So we want to make sure that we're getting input from our community and that we're having as many voices engage with us as possible. Looking to do a community survey as well, and then have our parent groups, DLAC, parent ambassadors, probably SSCs. We just want to ensure that we have that leadership involved, because we do have to get to some semblance of, well, what is the new normal going to look like? We want to make sure that we have input for that. And then obviously that's going to lead and will be ongoing discussions with our labor partners and working with the Alameda County Office of Ed, as well as the Alameda County of Public Health. And the such. So those are continuing steps. Project timeline this week, we'll be communicating decisions regarding summer school and graduation. So if you kind of put everything into perspective, while it is the beginning of May, summer school traditionally starts the last week in June, and then we have our year-round schools. So by the end of May, we'll figure out our year-round schools, which typically start mid-July. And then prior to the end of the school year, we'll have an idea what our start looks like for our traditional schools. And then middle of July, we'll have a full reopening plan. So we are looking to engage with our community and partners from the previous slide so that we have about 2 months to really hash out what the opening looks like. And then prior to the start of school, the time and the opportunity to train and support for staff, community, students, and everyone else in that process. And again, all of these are subject to change based on state and county guidelines. We are noticing that there has been phases as that are becoming less restrictive, but again, that's all going to be based on what our COVID-19 numbers look like for the county. And that's it. Do you have any questions?
Now, I'd just like to commend Dr. Wayne and everybody who has been involved in this. I can't imagine, it's such a huge undertaking. So good job, and I know it's continuing and changing, but hi, Pat. You're on mute.
Oh, okay. There we go.
No, but I just really appreciate all the work everybody's done. So I know it's very stressful for everybody. So well done so far.
Yeah, I attended that that last town hall. I listened in on it, and it was really, really good. Very well done.
Yeah, I would say Matt has done an incredible job of moving this forward as a cabinet, meeting 2, sometimes 3 times a day, follow-up phone calls. So while there might be the sense that, oh, well, the school district is closed down and everything, the work really does continue because everyone is looking for the answers that, quite frankly, they don't exist. In many ways, we've kind of been left with the model of we have to kind of make it up along as we go along, truly building the plane as we fly it, but with the intent all the while of ensuring that we're keeping our parents, our community, our labor partners informed, and really moving things forward. And he's done an incredible job of doing that. So yeah, I think again, obviously, if this happens again in the future, we'll have a playbook to go from. But in terms of developing and looking for guidance from the state and everything, there's been a lot of brain work that's gone into, I think, at this point. So thank you for that recognition. I'm sure he appreciates that. And Matt isn't really about that, but just there has been a lot of thought processing going into this.
Especially where there was nothing you could pull from any other district. This was all new for everybody, so my hat's off to all of you.
Yeah, and even when the governor gets on and says, "Oh yeah, I think we're going to open schools," and he makes some comment, "We'll open them early," and that just threw everyone on the back of their feet because it was like, "What are you talking about?" And then even then we're like, "What does the guidance look like?" And it's, yeah, I think even those, I think we've been in a really reactive mode. But again, I do think that I feel that we have very strong and pragmatic leadership in the district. So there's no room for panicking, but it's really the time to think things out loud and have the discussions and kind of think about what are the implications of doing things this way or that way. And also just the work that we've done with our labor partners along the way. They've been really supportive of this process and recognizing that, yeah, these are some very trying times, and they have been there in the partnership along the way as well.
No, I'm glad to see everybody's pulling together. And when I heard the governor say that, I think my eyes rolled back in my head too. Oh my God.
Yeah, that kind of threw us for a little bit of a.
But well done.
Thanks.
I just have a quick question for our classified employees. Have there been any layoffs, or is everybody, furloughs? Just kind of curious about how they're being.
So we just separating kind of COVID-19 situations with district kind of annual operations and revising what the needs and the allocations are. We have, so apart from COVID-19, we have had 2 board resolutions that have gone through for classified reductions. But that's part of the process that goes typically through school site council, or if it's a department is reorganizing itself. But other than that, we because of the funding and the state has continued to fund, we continue to fund our employees, pay our employees. We have not laid off anyone that's based on a COVID-19 kind of basis. And I'll have a further update on layoff, now that we're getting the forms back and the such. I'll have a better update at our regularly scheduled meeting later this month.
Okay, well, that's good to know that nobody's been laid off yet. So
yeah, no.
Pat, just to bring you up to date, Fernando swore me in.
Okay, all right. I was all by myself. I was all by myself. So I was wondering where everybody was, and then I thought, but then it said that on this email it said it was at 10:30. So then I thought, oh, well, maybe it was changed. So.
That may have been the closed session invitation that I sent you. So you would have gotten another one from Jenna for the participant one. But we got it taken care of.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
Okay. We'll move on to section C, 2, facilities, maintenance and operations, and transportation department reorganization. Fernando?
Yeah, so I'm going to share because it makes no sense to kind of rewrite this, but FMOT went through some reorganization efforts in a way to reallocate resources. So kind of going through all of this, what they did was Alan has, Alan's in his 2nd year now, I believe it is, or is it, I think, is it 2nd, or is he? he's really had time to really get more involved, feet on the ground, working with the tri group, going through and doing all of the tours of the school sites, looking at how we're going to implement the approved bond measure. So that, we get a better view on facilities. And along the way, Alan has been taking kind of some notes as to how do we best reorganize our structures, not our physical structures, but our organizational structure and FMOT to best support the needs of the sites. So this is a part of that. So what this looks like is that it's in an effort, again, key priorities for 2021, and this is taking into consideration the DAX feedback and the such, and that is the implementation of a system of accountability, transparency, and ongoing training and support. So really looking at a different model. And then also too, really ensuring that we're implementing our new work order system and the closeout process so that we have someone that's very aligned with that and is following up on that. And then looking at creating district-wide standards for each service department. So, we're looking at collaboration on custodial routes, handbooks, consistency in equipment, supplies, and responses. And then implementing strategies to maximize existing resources. And that's where we talk about kind of like, some of our largest costs are our people costs. So really looking at how do we implement those things. So Chris, if you can scroll up. And then just to give you an idea, the chart that you're looking at right now at the top, that is kind of what the structure of FMOT management has looked like. You've had your assistant superintendent, then you've had your directors and your coordinator, and then you had a line of coordinators in there. So you kind of had this like pillow of management that was in the middle. And what Alan did was in the restructure, and this was board approved, is he kind of flattened it out. If you go down like at the bottom, like beneath that, the new revised structure, there's the assistant superintendent, and then you have your bond coordinator, you have your director, and then you have your coordinator of benefits and risk management, which kind of is more in the office, but then you have your supervisors that fall under that. So really looking at how do we take our existing resources and put them closer to what the needs are. And this is what this has meant is that previously we had four supervisors. Our plant operations supervisors that existed at the high schools and also at the Sunset campus. And what happened was that we didn't have the resources, since they were dedicated there at those sites, we weren't able to utilize those resources in other locations. And so part of this was to look at how do we develop a facilities operations supervisor that can be more of I want to say a Swiss Army knife that could work at a district level and supporting various school sites versus being dedicated to one. Chrissy, can you scroll up? And then, so that's on the facilities operations side. Now this is in the transportation side. Previously, when there was the reorganization that we did a few years ago, we tied the transportation operations together. And what we found was to find a person who had the operations and transportation background was the equivalent of finding a unicorn. They kind of are very rare if they exist at all. I think some of them are just horses with horns put on them. So that was kind of separated out. And also part of this too is that even through our own recruitment process, we found that we were not able to we had a lot of vacancies for our bus drivers, and really felt that transportation kind of lived on its own after Alan had the chance to really see how it operated. And so we came up, and worked with staff for a transportation supervisor-instructor position, because what we found is that we were outsourcing the instructor component. The district is interested in training our own internal bus drivers, but we were unable to do that with limited resources. And also what it entailed was we also had some dynamics where the bus dispatcher, at times folks felt that it was crossing the supervisory line of directing employees for the dispatch. So with that feedback and the such, we devised a transportation supervisor-instructor who will oversee the transportation department, will provide the dispatching duties, so essentially directing the work of our bus drivers on a day-to-day basis, and with changing conditions. And also be able to provide the instruction that they need in order to maintain their certification, and also to allow us as a school district to open up a training program so that we can train individuals to become bus drivers. What we find is that anytime we have a recruitment for bus drivers, most folks have the Class B, but they don't have the special school bus certification. And by having an in-house instructor, we'll be able to offer training that goes along with that so that we can turn them into our school bus drivers, because there's just a dearth of, there's just no bus drivers. We're very competitive. We've done a compensation study across the board, and even when you remove the whole benefits piece and do the apples for apples comparison, we're very competitive. It's just that it's just really hard for the training piece. And when we researched this earlier this year, it's about, in order for us to do it with an external instructor, it comes out to about $7,000 to $10,000 per person to train. And that's what you're paying. You're paying by head. Whereas this way, this gives us a little bit more flexibility to build something in. So that's on the transportation side. And then going back to, and then if you look further down, you see the structure for grounds and custodial, which is our operations piece. You can see your various supervisors, and then you see the new proposed structure beneath that. It's a lot flatter. We've also taken some of the typical more generic groundskeeper positions and really looked at what are the scope and areas that we tended to contract out for, and wanted to bring those in-house because it just made better sense for the district. And those two new job descriptions that came out from that, other than the facilities operations supervisor, which will oversee all three of those areas, is the urban forestry worker, which is essentially our tree trimmers, tree cutters. We were spending a lot of district resources on external contractors and vendors to like ArborTech and various tree trimmers. And so we needed that. And then also that coupled with, we often had incidents where, because of the lack of tree maintenance, being so close to some of our buildings, that we also had our roofs were being degraded too quickly because of the wind. It's moving its branches around. So it's kind of meant to really be the preventative, to provide the maintenance, and then to be preventive maintenance. And then also our irrigation technician. I'm sure you've driven by sites, and either they look like they're dry as the desert, and if they're green, sometimes you walk on them and they are just like marsh pits. So what we really needed was, we needed someone whose expertise was really around irrigation, ensuring that if we're going to have landscaping, if we're going to be able to provide the visual experience for people when they come to our facilities, we also needed to ensure that we had that expertise on that side as well. So what this flattening and this shifting and changing, it did lead to some layoff reduction resolution. We were able to keep everyone but one person, one manager is out the door. That was on probation because the position won't exist anymore. But they are able to apply for the other positions, but everyone else who would have been impacted in this, and I think this led to savings of about $400,000 in restricted funds, unrestricted funds. We were able to keep everyone employed through this process.
So, I have a question on the grounds and custodial section. With
Yes.
the elimination of, on high schools, the plant supervision supervisor. And now it goes then down to the high school senior custodian. So will he, no one's receiving lowering salaries on this, or how does
Well,
that work? Because
So,
the plant supervisor was a senior custodian, wasn't he?
no, the plant operations supervisor was actually an on-site supervisor at the high schools and also at the Sunset campus. What we did was we eliminated those positions. because what we found was that we needed to ensure that we could provide supervision across the school district. So at our middle schools and our elementary sites, typically our principals oversaw the senior custodians and the such, whereas at the high school, the plant operations supervisor was a working supervisor that oversaw the senior custodians, the custodians, and also the grounds folks that were there. And our experiences and that we have found is that you had also site administration who kind of said, well, who's in charge of it? You kind of had this, it just didn't, for lack of better words, it wasn't as efficient as it could be. And we found that we were concentrating a lot of supervisory administration at the high schools that, quite frankly, we needed to reallocate those resources to other sites as well.
So will there be people moved around, or they'll stay where they are?
There will be so all of our plant operations supervisors held previous permanent positions in the district. They do have rights to go back to their job. They also have the opportunity to apply for the new positions that were created, the facility operations supervisors.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Uh-huh.
I am looking at this. It really seems like Alan really took a good look, took the time to look how everything was laid out and where changes could be made in a positive way for the district.
Yeah, he did. I'll give you a perfect example, I think, of just how resources were previously allocated and it didn't work for the district. So keep this number, we'll play some numbers. We have about 12, actually we have 11 groundskeepers in the district. All right, you following me? Yeah. So each high school had 2 groundskeepers at their high schools. So we have 3 comprehensive high schools. That's 6 of our groundskeepers. Then we had 1 groundskeeper at the Sunset campus. That's 7 of the 11 on 4 sites. Mind you, we still have, we went to the all-weather fields, but, we still have our baseball fields. We still have grounds needs and the such, but we're playing on all-weather fields now, surfaces. That left 4 groundskeepers to take care of the needs of the other 27 sites in the district. That was just something that it might have worked in yesteryear, but from where we are now, the need to look at reallocating those resources was great. And in order to do that, you needed to have that oversight as well. So that's kind of one of those things that kind of Alan was like, yeah, well, of course, some of our facilities, are the way that they are, because you just don't have the people to be able to deploy in a way that works for the entire district. And that's just kind of an example.
Are these roving positions now? They will be roving?
The groundskeepers have always been roving itinerant positions, but in practice, they have just kind of been stationed at the high schools.
Okay.
I think this is the first time that this area has really been looked at in a long time, hasn't it?
From my experience, it is the first time in my 10 years in the district that I can think of, but definitely in my 4 years in this role. Previously, we've looked at the upper kind of components of management. But again, even the way that this has been flattened out, the intent is to really support the needs of our sites a lot better.
To me, it makes a lot of sense. So I'm happy to see it, even though it does cause some disruption, but I think it's very workable.
Yeah. Like I say, it was done in such a way that the attempt was to, there's going to be people who are impacted, so I don't want to take that away. There are definitely going to be some reductions for some folks, and in terms of where they were on their jobs and everything, but it was done in a way that we wanted to ensure that we kept everyone employed through the process.
Okay.
I've got a couple of questions. So the after hours operations supervisor, that's going away?
That's going to go away, Pat, because part of the component with the after hours operations supervisor was you had the one individual who was attempting to oversee the 31 sites in addition to the security department. And what happened was that at the April 22nd, is it the April 22nd meeting, Christy? Was it the April 22nd meeting, the board, they voted to close down our security department.
Oh, wow. So it's not going to exist anymore then.
It won't exist anymore, no.
So who's going to be overseeing the security then for this?
There'll be all the sites have their alarms. We have the fire department's always in tune with those. Part of the work that is being done through the bond measure is to upgrade and update the security systems, the fire alarm systems for the school sites, and there'll be an external company, I think Allied. I think half of our sites were already being, or a number of our sites were already being monitored by them for the past few years anyways.
Oh, okay. All right, well, that makes sense. And then, well, that would be a big savings then, right? Because the security people.
There's a savings for the district. There is. I mean, unfortunately, it comes at a cost to people, but there is a savings for the district.
And then, so now the transportation supervisor-instructor, I think that's a great idea. But they're also going to be doing the dispatching then, right, for all of the buses.
Correct. And it's, interestingly enough, we just kind of found that dispatching is two things. One is you can view dispatching as letting people know, hey, you have to go here, you have to go. The other thing is dispatching is also directing. Mm-hmm. And sometimes we felt that there could be situations where depending on how people were feeling, that they could feel that the lines were crossed on like, why is one SEIU person directing another SEIU person? And again, this better meets the needs of the district because we did need that instructor component. We didn't want a high-level manager, coordinator doing this work. And quite frankly, Alan came in and said, hey, the last reorg that was done before him, he says, this isn't really working for what the needs of the department are.
That's good. So this will go into effect at the start.
This will go into effect July 1. And if the commission approves this, I know we typically go through 2 readings, but barring any big changes to the, and I don't think we're at that, this is still the reorganization. Yeah, we'd like to start the process of the recruiting.
And then so once we approve this, which I guess would be at the next meeting, then the layoff notices will go out to the people that.
No. We don't. We carry out the layoff, but the board has already decided that it goes forth. So we oversee that, Pat, but we don't do the layoff.
No, but the notices go out.
We've already got the notices out.
Oh, okay. All
yeah. Right. So there was two layoff reduction actions. There was the one that was on April 22nd. We've already sent that out. That wasn't really related. There was kind of not much to this. And then at the last board meeting on May 6th, there was the full-on presentation of the facilities, operations, maintenance, transportation, reorganization, and then that was a subsequent second resolution, and then we sent those notices out. So we've already kind of done the due process, the notice. We carry everyone for 60 days throughout that process, and then we're just looking at there's be a little overlap for transition.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, if there's no further questions from the commission, are there any public comments on this item?
Yes, I have Daisy Bates. So Daisy, you're unmuted. If you would like to unmute yourself, you can go ahead and talk.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Good morning.
Yes, thank you.
Well, I am just very concerned about the lack of knowledge our personnel commission has in regards of what's going on with classified employees. when I hear one of the members saying, has there been any layoffs? Oh, so then it's been taken care of. So, but on April 22nd, ladies and gentlemen, the district abolished a lot of positions. Yes, we may not have lost people that have been laid off and going on the street, but supervisors have been purposely vacating positions, leaving them vacant for close to a year. Per se, Rhonda Ford, I don't know if you remember Rhonda Ford. She used to work 12 hours a day for the district, many of those hours for free. She retired close to a year ago. That department supervisor did not hire anybody to do that work. In the meantime, my members have been doing all that work. That's one. At YEP, they had a position there for a long time, also vacant. The work was done by, she will be hiring the hiring supervisor, hiring substitutes, going, doing things in a way that it was not ethical, just to get rid of that position. Now we have a position, Deb Snyder. I don't know if you remember Deb Snyder, across the street. She will take care of books. That position has been left purposely vacant. They're supposed to hire somebody, they put it out for people to apply, and at the end of the day, they don't hire anybody. So when you say that, oh, well, so nobody really lost their jobs, yes, they did. April 22nd, please be aware of what's going on in the district. You have a role to play in HUSD. Play it. Play it. Watch it. Do you know that it's going to be an $18 billion in reductions in education coming up this week? You're supposed to be the gatekeepers of our positions. Please be aware of what's going on. You don't know what's going on here. Apparently you didn't know all the people that lost their jobs. Do you know that we're going to be outsourcing security now? A company named Allied is taking over those jobs in security. The positions are gone forever. Do you think that company is taking care of the safety of our buildings like they're supposed to? Some of those alarms are not working. My members are telling me that they're being break-ins at the school sites. The police department didn't even know that we no longer have security at night. If you watch the town hall meeting, one of you said that they watch it. I asked that question to our city manager, Ms. McAdoo. She said, I didn't even know you guys don't have anybody in security. So please, if you're gonna hold these positions, be aware of what's going on in the district. Don't wait for these meetings when everything is spoon-fed to you. You need to participate. You need to make sure that you know that our position in the city of Hayward, some of you were, Ms. Lane was a classified employee, was an IOTI member. So we have lost positions. Now the dispatcher thing, you know who's been answering all the hundreds of questions a week of problems with transportation? IOTI members. Nothing to do with SCIU dispatching position. We have been answering. And they're still not being paid by their 5% out of class work. My members in the M&O department has been answering. When this new person comes up, the instructor, supervisor, boss, whatever, do you think he's gonna be answering all those questions when parents don't know where their kids are? No, they're gonna give them to somebody else who will take care of those answers. This person is gonna be making about $93,000 a year. So I'm gonna be speaking on regards of those positions later on, but please be aware. If you're going to be serving the community, classified members, be aware of the positions we're losing easily. The Board of Education didn't want to even discuss when these positions were up. They just wanted to get over with it, and they wanted to just vote to get rid of us. We are people, members of these communities. We have that dispatcher, Carol. Carol doesn't have a job. She's out the door. So be aware of that these things are happening in April. You must be aware of this, and you have to question the system. What are we doing? Are we doing it right? You see on the personal commission agenda the vacancies. Why are these positions vacant? Is there no work in there to be doing? So it just concerns me that you are not aware of these things. Thank you.
Thank you. We also have Wendy Whitaker here that would like to talk. I'm going to go, oh, Wendy, I'm going to have to promote you up to panelist for you to speak. Oh, where'd she go?
She's in panelists.
Oh, okay.
I'm here. Are y'all ready?
Oh, there you go. Hi, Wendy. Go ahead.
Hi. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, Wendy.
I kind of wanted to piggyback on what Daisy had stated. As far as the vacancies, yes, it's true. I would have to agree that many times vacancies have been left open. We had a CSO position that sat vacant for over a year, and we were short. There were days where there would be either 1 or 2 CSO on duty at a high school, but yet the district decided to sit on a vacancy. Security department. I have over 30 plus years of security experience, and it really doesn't make any sense to get rid of a security department. Who's going to be at the board meeting once we go back to what the norm was? Who's going to be on site? In the past, there was a security person, a physical person there. Who's going to be there moving forward? People are losing their jobs. Members are some of their hours are also being cut short. I'm just wondering why management, some of their hours have not been cut short, but yet the working people are losing hours. 1 or 2 or 3 hours a week or up to 5 hours a week, it really makes a big difference when you're the working class. But when you're sitting behind a desk making decisions for other people's lives and you're not being affected, that's a problem. Management is not in touch with the working class or with their employees. I would hope before certain cuts are made, more information is given to you, the Personnel Commission, because a lot of these cuts are really going to affect a lot of people, and it's going to cause a hardship on folks. You got to look at the people who are making the cuts, because a lot of them really don't understand. You can be a superintendent, you could be an assistant superintendent, but if you're not really in tune or really don't understand about the position that you're cutting, you have to take a look at it again. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thank you, Wendy.
Thanks.
That's all the speakers I have on this one.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Since this was information discussion, there won't be any vote on this section. So moving on to action items. D1, first reading of proposed job descriptions. Do you want to take each one as it is listed?
So I'll go ahead and I'll give a general. The compliance specialist position is really meant to support ensuring the district is compliant with various aspects, whether it comes to safety training, ADA, working with our construction as we're doing the modernizations and the upkeep for facilities. So really going out there and really kind of owning that component. And you can look at kind of some of the various duties, but it's really kind of a compliance-based, OSHA, I mean, all of those kinds of things. And kind of working hand in hand with how do we dispatch and how do we allocate our resources to ensure that if we're out of compliance, that there's someone that's working hand in hand with the FMOT department to ensure that we get our folks out there to bring things up to speed.
Okay, so I was just going back to the, looking at the organizational chart to see
So this person would directly report to the coordinator of benefits and risk.
Okay.
And so again, this is more of the alignment
see.
with, as a district. How are we ensuring that we're the big pockets here? So just really ensuring how we're meeting, dotting our I's and crossing our T's when it comes to compliance.
Okay. Any other questions on this particular job description?
I just have a question under representative duties. The last one says operate a variety of tools and power equipment. I'm assuming that this is needed to do an inspection, not that
This
to
is-
work.
This is well, it can be both, but yes, you need someone who can go and can take off the electrical panel and really look and ensure that it's what it's supposed to be, and yes, can follow up and say, have we met these, whether it be a tape measure, whether it be power equipment or whatever. There are times where they might have to crawl up into a duct or into an attic or something. So yes, that's what that's for.
Okay, thank you.
So really you want like a building inspector type of a person who's,
Yeah.
they're not really doing the stuff, but they can tear it apart and kind of say, this is what the problem is.
That's what I thought, but I just wanted
Yeah.
to make sure.
Mhm.
The next one is facilities operations supervisor.
So this is more of the all-encompassing design to really take away from the plant operations supervisors kind of role in who oversaw the operations, but really look at all of the components. The idea behind this as well is that I didn't talk about this, but looking at having different schedules. Traditionally, we've always done a Monday through Friday, but we really want to begin to take advantage of kind of the Saturdays and kind of some flexibility in there. And for them to oversee the components that go along with our facilities, our operations, and our grounds needs at all of our school sites across the district.
Okay, any questions? Okay, we'll move on to irrigation technician.
So the irrigation technician, again, is one of those positions that we would hope that one of our existing groundskeepers could potentially would be applying, promoting for this. But this is really someone that is going to be the expert for the district for our irrigation needs. Irrigation has gone from, it's not just simply turning on a simple valve. But it's really is almost this technical component that goes with it, whether, because while I mentioned earlier, we do have our all-weather fields at the high schools. A lot of our landscaping is all based, has an irrigation need. So really setting up the irrigation pieces that go along with this, again, looking at how do we ensure that we can support any new plantings, any existing landscaping that we have, and have our in-house expert that can deal with the watering needs and the designing of those aspects.
So there would only be one? There would only be one for the whole district?
I'm not sure. I think at this point, I think they're looking at one position for this at this time.
It's an awful lot to take care of.
I was going to ask that same question. Yeah, it seems like a lot for one person.
Yeah.
And what I would say in that regard is that you still have your groundskeepers, because when you start looking at your groundskeepers, they can do a lot of the work, but your irrigation specialist is going to be the one that ties it all together with the irrigation system, whether it be electronic or what have you, but they work in tandem, but you would just have that irrigation specialist would be like the expert at that component.
Okay.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll
I
move.
just want to state that we'll give the attendees an opportunity to comment on this before the vote. So we're going to go through all of them, and then the attendees will have a chance to talk.
Right. Okay, we'll move on to Transportation Supervisor-Instructor.
So again, this is one that I spoke about. This is bringing in someone that takes transportation. It's no longer going to be split between transportation and operations. It will provide the direct supervision, dispatching component that goes along with it, and then also to the requirements being that they're certified to provide instruction, so that we don't have to contract out. Because we do have to ensure that we're keeping our bus drivers. They have to have a minimum of 10 hours a year. And then we also want to be able to, because we always have bus driver vacancies, we want to be able to have a training program so that we can fully grow our transportation department.
We definitely need more bus drivers.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Well, we'll do the last one, urban forestry worker.
So this is, a tree trimmer, not necessarily an arborist, but someone who is experienced in the maintaining, the trimming, of our trees, because we do have a lot of trees on our district property, and there's times where they decide to fall, they're dangerous, and the such, but we just want to ensure that we have that in-house, and we have enough work in the district to be able to house this type of position to support the needs of all of our sites.
I don't recall ever having this specialized position for this, so there are a lot of trees that need to be maintained, so.
Yeah.
I have just a little typo on the first page. I believe it's a typo anyway, but down near the bottom, drive trucks and operate and maintain power equipment. Chainsaws ranging in guide bar length should be from 14 inches to 30 inches, because it just says 14 inches, 30 inches on there.
Looks like that's an I instead of a 1, too.
Yes.
Changed.
From 14, yes.
14 inches to 30 inches.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, Christy, I didn't ask for a motion on this section, did I?
No.
No, we did not yet.
Backtracking a little bit. So we've covered each of the 5 job descriptions. So could I have a motion that we accept the job descriptions?
I move to approve the first reading of the proposed job description.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. It's also been discussed. Could I have a motion for approval? All of those.
We have public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I have Daisy Bates who would like to speak, and I'm going to go ahead and add you. Daisy, you're ready. Go ahead and unmute on your side.
Hello again. This time I would like to really take a look at, since we're in a saving mode here at the district, I want you to also think ahead. We will be having conversations. The superintendent has already said that to us in meetings, that we will be looking at possible reductions for the next year and going to a range 19 or 28, well, the 19th. The 28th is an SEIU position. But going 19 to the range 19 for those 8 positions that you are looking at today, even though it's your first reading, but it's important for you to start thinking ahead about the deficit that we're gonna get into 2021. You know for sure that the district is gonna come to the labor partners and ask us to sacrifice our salaries. You know that. Mrs. Lane, you remember? You were in IOTA at that time when we had to do all of that. Those cuts, Ms. Hodges, you were, very involved in here. You remember those days. So please take a look at the amount of money that is gonna cost us to get those 8 positions that you are approving the first reading today. That is about 800,000. So we need to go to range 19 on them? So please take a look at those things. Talk to HR, have a conversation with Alan Gard. You already praised him for the amazing job that he's been doing. He's been cutting positions left and right for my colleagues from SEIU, dismantling a whole department. So when you are going to approve a first reading of range 19, go look on the salary schedule and see what it means. What does fiscally means to us in HUSD? That is part of your job, because you are you're going to be approving this position to go to the board. So please look at it. Look at all of us, because as you put money on them, they're gonna take money from us to pay these positions. We need to be very careful. We need to start thinking ahead. Because when we meet with the superintendent, all the labor partners, the superintendent is going to be asking us for cuts. So, you know, you are not personally affected by this, but the people you represent will. So I commend you to please take a look at that and go back to the drawing table about the salary schedule. So thank you so much.
Okay, and I have Wendy Whitaker as well. Oh, where'd she go? There she is. Okay, Wendy, you're ready.
And just want to reiterate what Daisy stated. Look at the people who are actually being affected by this, the working class, the people who really understand the job. It seems that the district has no problem with cutting folks, but they will bring in people with a very high salary, or, you know, including management. My members are really being affected. The problem really hasn't been the members. The problem has been management hiring the wrong folks. We had June Ronio a couple years ago. He was the one that came up, hey, let's put this transportation custodial position together. In comes Neil, and Neil says, whoever put this together, it was the wrong thing to do. So the district has spent money for 2 consultants, and both of them have different opinions. The district is hiring the wrong people. You should start looking at some of the people who are in positions who are making bad decisions, which is creating problems for our members, not only with SEIU, but with AOD as well. Again, look at the salary, as Daisy stated. I'm reiterating, look at the salaries before you agree to something. Thank you. Hold on.
Those are the only speakers I have.
Okay, we'll move to the vote then. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I just have just a concern after listening to Daisy and to Wendy, is because we don't, I for one, don't understand what a range that 19 or whatever is, because I didn't see a chart of what it means. So I'm just kind of throwing that out, that maybe when we approve these things and we approve ranges, we should, at least I need to see what that range means. And so I kind of, I take what Daisy and Wendy have said, and but even though I approve this, in the future, perhaps maybe we should have that information too.
That'll come at the next one though. Second
I know,
read.
but we're approving this now, so that's, and it does say a range at the top. And I'm wondering, are we approving the functions and duties and necessary abilities? Or are we also approving what it says at the top?
So let me kind of explain the pieces and the components. So the board has already approved the job descriptions, which is essentially the basic function, the representative duties, and the essential duties. The realm of the Personnel Commission is to look at salary and ensure that it falls within the hierarchy of the families. And also too, for the work that we do on the outside, looking at being competitive. So anytime we do new positions, we do look at we look at our existing salary structure. We typically utilize a number that is between 15% up to 22% of when we talk about supervisory positions over the folks that they will supervise. So that's where we kind of arrive at our numbers. So we really try to tie those things in, and we look at, again, also what being competitive. So kind of looking at other districts and trying to build an apples for apples comparison. So the salary is the recommended salary based on that work, that background work that we did, and kind of coupling it with where it's at. And then if you go back to our initial presentation that we shared with the FMOT restructuring, that's already taken into account, and that's where we arrive at the $400,000 savings that's already come into play. So I think point well taken by our labor partners in terms of like looking at those things, but we don't just kind of arbitrarily kind of throw out a number. We look at the highest positions that they will be supervising. We look at what the market yield is. And then we place it in the hierarchy. So that's kind of really the role of the commission and the commission staff. And then the other part that we do with that, and Christy, can you scroll up again? We also oversee, yeah, there you go. We also oversee what are called the KSAs of any of our job descriptions. And that is the knowledge, abilities, and the skills that go into that, and also the minimum requirements, the minimum qualifications. So those are the pieces that the Personnel Commission is kind of charged with saying, okay, this is what the board wants in the essential duties. And we don't do this in isolation. So, you know, we work with like district staff, we work with Alan, we work with Kim to develop the essential duties. So we're doing this in tandem. We don't do it in pieces because you want to do it as a complete picture. And then that's where the role of the Personnel Commission is kind of like, okay, what other things do we kind of want our classified staff folks to be able to do in this role? What should their abilities be, and what should the minimum qualifications be? So all of those come into play when we start placing things on a salary schedule.
Well, that wasn't, my question is that the salary was wrong. My question is, I don't know what a range 19 is, a range whatever. So if I'm actually approving a first reading of something, of a box, and there's information in that box that I don't understand, it puts me at a disadvantage. That's all.
Okay. Got it.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay, let me take the vote again. All those in favor of the first reading of the proposed job descriptions, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, it's been moved for first reading. We'll go to second reading then.
And
Okay.
this question on the second reading, we'll have the ranges and everything, the whole.
Yeah, I know that, but
I was asking Fernanda.
Yes, we will put together a more comprehensive piece that goes along with that has the salary ranges and the such, so that you have something to review. Yes.
And this will all come up on our next meeting.
Correct.
Okay, we'll go to section E on,
Okay, I'll go ahead and read that. Public comments on closed session agenda items. This section of the Personnel Commission agenda provides the opportunity for comments from members of the general public on the items which will be presented in closed session. If anyone from the general public has a comment on any of the items that will be discussed prior to the Commission's adjournment to closed session, he or she is invited at this time to well, don't step up to the podium, but raise your hand. Please wait for the Commission Chair. Well, she's asked for speakers. If you have any comments, you can raise your hand now. If not, we will adjourn the meeting, and if there's any decisions made, which I don't believe that there's anything on our closed session agenda that would warrant reconvening an open session. So if there's no comments or no comments from the commission, I think that we are ready to adjourn the meeting.
Okay,
Okay?
so, close the meeting.
Okay, let's see. Share.
Are we leaving now and then starting a new one?
Hold on one
We can,
second.
can we stay here?
No, we'll go. I sent you another.
That's what I was on this morning.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and end this meeting then.
Okay, see you in a minute.
Thank you, everyone.